Thank you so much for coming to our reading this afternoon. I know a lot of you were here for the opening reception on Thursday as well. So I was gonna read formal biographies of both of our esteemed speakers here, but I hate it when people are reading to me off of a sheet, so I'll just speak off the cuff. Jack Balas is the oldest.
These are my paintings. These are my paintings, and they are all for sale. Thank you for bringing your credit cards with you today.
You know, Jack has done photography, painting, other kinds of artwork, but a lot of his work incorporates extensive text. And so, hence the pairing with the esteemed and beloved Duane Michaels. So they're going to each be doing readings. Jack will start, pass it off to Duane, and then Jack will finish things up. And then we'll have some time for some questions afterward as well. So yeah, feel free to stick around. You know, after the talk, if anybody wants any refreshments, feel free. There's a restroom upstairs. Yeah, so let's enjoy ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Thanks for the intro, Brian. Let me know if I'm not talking loud enough. The first thing I like to do is take a photo of my audience, just for, if you can all smile.
Don't sign any releases.
Okay. I brought a number of paintings that on the monitor I would like to read to you. As Brian said, I've been writing for a long time. That all started with an art shipping job that I had from San Francisco to LA to New York and back, schlepping paintings and sculpture here between galleries and artists and museums. And at night, I tried to paint in motel rooms. It was very difficult. So I started to write about places that I was driving through, and then that's where these stories eventually built upon themselves. So we have the images here on the monitor just to give you an idea of what the paintings look like that I'm reading you. This is my transcript. And so let me just start. Every word, every letter, every sentence and paragraph and page in every language ever spoken, ever whispered, ever written, or thought, or heard, or sung, or dreamt, today, tomorrow, now, yesterday, here, there, always, and forever, past, present, and future ad infinitum, the world without end. This is my voice. This painting is about as tall as me. It's oil on wood. And it's called The Sink, Rome. And you're half the bed listening to him go on about the busted shower and what the football team will do this fall. You've trudged through this ancient dust of Rome, athletes everywhere naked on pedestals, on friezes, lining the rooftops, the Quirinale, Campidoglio, the Vatican, muscle taught in combat, in repose, and now you thumb the Sistine Guide, but he goes to the sink and removes the last of his clothes, and you are frozen by more muscle, hard, smooth. He's talking about some girl he met in the Pantheon as he lathers himself. You hear yourself tell about the Forum, how you look at your calves and the veins casting shadows in sun, and imagine yourself back then, and now you're marble. That's when he turns to you, asks if you ever... Okay, next one. Thank you. This is a photo based on... it's a photo for this text. And there is another painting with a similar kind of text. But this is a photo of the Very Large Array Radio Astronomy Lab in the middle of New Mexico. Quemado lies at 35, Omega at 42, Daddle another 34 to go down roads where men in hay trucks wave and the brush of snow on Juniper dresses horizon to horizon Highway 60, New Mexico. I'm not alone this lurching afternoon. I'm thinking of my father, A man in his 30s filling fire extinguishers in Denver, me, a boy of 5. He's driving, waving. What would he say about these hills, these pines, this glaring afternoon? Pie Town is going by mile marker 56. There are antlers on roofs, the Continental Divide. Headed for Socorro, mile marker 74. You are leaving Ciobolo National Forest. I complete the phrase, and entering. At Daddle, the radio astronomy lab points its disk skyward on the plains before the Magdalena Mountains, great white shells probing billions of years back into time, gathering light from the beginning of the universe. As I drive past, I start to wonder if I can go back there, in there and ask to see 1960 and my father waving and me. Beautiful. Thank you. This is bank shot. It's about this big. It's oil on canvas. Some of these, I run out of room for the words, but as I go along, it's like, uh-oh, I better get smaller, get bigger, stuff like that. But anyway. Larry and I lived above the pool hall, we told people, rather than say the bait shop. Same block, same view, looking down on 4 lanes of southbound US 51 in downtown Bloomington, Illinois, not Indiana. Could have been Des Moines, that fucking hot July before senior year, mowing grass all day in our gym shorts, dive into some backyard pool, come up glistening and walk home dripping to work on our bank shot. That trick shot, slam your balls against a wall so that it spins off in another direction and drops kerplop into the pocket you've called. But in a lot of ways, that whole summer was a bank shot, cruising into the hot dusk after dinner to wander, to slap mosquitoes and soak in the neon, because even though we didn't know where we were headed any night, we could see the game now oh so much better, like looking down at all that traffic, the swim of noise in the wake of lights flashing. We were just getting used to the idea of being behind the wheel then. And that was the biggest fish, to be behind the wheel and ready to floor it, knowing there were oh so many pockets out there glistening around any number of corners, lures we couldn't even think to call before we would start to reel them in. In 2003, I discovered Honolulu for the first time. So this is called the discovery of Honolulu. And it's a big canvas that folds up like a map, and it hangs with grommets on the wall. The discovery of Honolulu in circa 2003 in Oahu, when Jack J. Balas, the artist, circa 47, stepped off United 43 at Honolulu International onto the Wiki walkway and was struck not by a Wiki bus, but by the warm, moist trade winds, swaying the palms and pecs and abs as far as the eye could see. And it was apparent, having read Didion and From Here to Eternity, that while those accounts of various war times bore only slight resemblance to this concrete urbanism tattooed with babes and surfers and whose sands he now let course through his toes, he was nevertheless not only at sea level, but also 3 miles up this volcanic slope risen from the floor of the Pacific, to the point that while he thought he had come to the beach, he saw that he'd also come indeed to the mountaintop. The next one, yes. This is a paper piece. It's twice as big, 2 panels that are this big, vertical. And this is a memorial piece for somebody I used to know. Bob Howe wanted to tell stories. We were 2 artists a year or so out of high school, he a year older, just having won a contest to do new covers for the Saturday Evening Post. His hero was Norman Rockwell, and his emulation of Rockwell's style gave him the prize, a contract with the Post. He lived in my Chicago suburb and then moved away, but close enough to go visit a few times. We lost touch as I went off to college to pursue my own path in art, but today, Sunday, January 27th, 2017, I thought of him and decided to look him up online. What I found was an obituary from the Tribune. He died 15 years ago in 2002 of a stroke at the age 48. It also said he'd had lifelong diabetes and went blind in the 70s, plus he lost a leg to it. But he later had surgery that restored partial sight in one eye, and he went back to painting. He may have preferred to paint children on their last day of summer vacation, or a Halloween pumpkin tossed out the morning after, or even himself holding a pipe in a Rockwell pose, looking in a mirror, but Bob, here is a story for you. Sorry, I choke up frequently, so. Okay, next one. Cactus flowers. This is a paper piece, same as big as this. The cactus flowers are coming out, pink and lemon and tangerine skins, swarmed by bees and protected by needles. I've been doing what I call corona walks, what with the virus going around this last month, keeping everyone at home or inside. I'm out on a street I've never walked down before, looking at these flowers and small brick houses and trunks of palm trees, when there on one corner are two college boys shirtless in the morning sun, working out with weights and a bench in their front yard, doing dips on the chain link gate. I had to laugh at myself, how all my thoughts got short-circuited. The university has been closed for a month, and students were asked to leave town if they could. But here were two left, and I made myself ask innocent questions about their gear and as I passed, and careful to swing by as I went home. But today, I had to go back and prove that it could be done. And sure enough, they were nowhere to be seen. So I was able to return to looking at houses and tree trunks and even cactus flowers, equally stunning and just as untouchable. Another one. Sometimes it's only text, rarely, but this is one. The gang showers. Died and gone to heaven is how my cowboy buddy Kurt described the gang showers at 5:30, days when the wrestlers came into the lockers of the hockey team or a visiting football team. A squeeze of jocks under every nozzle, perfect muscle, laughing, shouting, throwing those little bars of soap, peeing on each other, even a chub here or there. Kurt and me, we always made sure to be finishing our workout by then, and then one day, okay, your turn. And the next one. Paper piece. Probably the same Canadian flag as that painting over by Brian. The Save-On Whitehorse. The Save-On at the north end of Whitehorse is my favorite place to eat when I'm up in Yukon, at the deli counter by the big window, nose pressed against the glass and the big Canadian flag floating outside in the breeze. I've been wanting to go back, but the border has been closed for over a year with COVID and all. So in the meantime, I've been out in the backyard with my nose pressed against a maple tree. So. And two. Okay. This is a collage piece. I started my college career as an architecture student at IIT in Chicago. And my dad had always said, Jack, be an architect. You can do your paintings on the weekends, et cetera. You know that drill. So I was in architecture school at Crown Hall, the Mesian steel and glass icon on the south side of Chicago, the twin of which is the National Gallery in Berlin. I'm not sure which museum space, but anyway. Crown Hall, 33rd and State, IIT Chicago. No one in those 1974 days would have thought it possible to look back from almost 40 years with any sense of nostalgia on that stifling box of architecture school, except maybe when a scaffold came crashing down across our drafting tables, when a window blew in a storm, not 10 minutes after we'd walked away for a Coke, my frat bros and me. We thought ourselves lucky that day, but little did we realize how lucky we'd been all along, every day, then and since, that we were in fact princes, if not already kings. And I think I'll end this part of my performance with the next piece. Self-portrait after 50 years of painting, 2021. Finally, after 50 years of painting and even more of general living, I have made you, yesterday, this self-portrait. And I know you won't laugh, even my critics and naysayers, because I know that you know that artists since time began, even those with social or political agendas, yes, moi, have sought to bring you, dear viewers, not only in this case paintings, images, shocking, of how things are or appear, but also things as they can be. The whole thing about creating one's reality and bringing you an artistic vision, a way of seeing, even a way of being. I'm not the first, I must admit, to go off bravely in this direction, despite the consequences. So I make a big shout out, thank you, to my predecessors and inspirators, including, in no particular order, Paul Cadmus, David Hockney, Michelangelo, Andy Warhol, Keith Haring, Kehinde Wiley, Marsden Hartley, Grant Wood, Doug Simonson, Charles Demuth, Wes Hempel, my husband, Nicole Eisenman, Kent Monkman, Don Bacardi, Duane Michaels, among others, and you know who you are. And as for you, dear reader, I patiently await the day when longtime friend or just recently enlightened, you walk up to me and whisper into my ear those three cherished little words, sign me up. Thank you. And now I have the pleasure of introducing a man who needs no introduction, Duane Michaels.
Well, thank you very much. Beautiful work. What, you're going to hit your head in there, and there'll be blood all over my sweater.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay? Okay? Yeah. Well, let's see. Here we are. I'm very verbal, so anytime you want to say enough, pull my plug. But think about it. I have to do all the work here. No, but keep up. And I just got started. No, here's the thing. I'm working, I like books. I'm very verbal. I love language. I'm working on 2 books now. One is for Steidl, and it's going to be History of Sequences. And the other one is for, we're hoping, Thames and Hudson. And that one, it's really pissy, my memory. That one is about, it's going to be called Duane Michaels, the Expressionist. The key word to me is expression. It's not writing, it's not photography. It's how well do you express yourself. And to express yourself, what are you expressing yourself about? I find myself more intimate with language, and I equate, I don't want to get into all this. I brought a lot of books, and I'm going to read you, first a little bit of history. I always describe myself as being a gay flop. My show closed out of town in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. You know, like all the New York shows and everything. No. And Fred and I were sort of lived in our own little world. Fred and I were together for 57 years, and we lived 44 years in the country, and Fred was an architect. And so we never went to Fire Island. This is where we lived. And I find, so when Fred died about 7 years ago, I suppose, I wrote a little thing, and it said, dear friend, if you should die before me, I would build you a pyramid, and each stone would be a memory of something we had shared, and I would think of you. And should you awaken from, and when you awaken from your dream of death, should you find this pyramid in your travels, remember me and how I once loved you long ago. And so I'm going to start at the beginning. And I did a book.
Do you need help?
Oh, here it is. I did a. My mother and father were. My mother got knocked up in 1931. Here I am, and they didn't even like each other. They sort of lived together. They finally moved in together after 5 years, and then they didn't really like each other. That's all I'll say. So this is little. My dad was a steel worker in Pittsburgh, and my mother worked in a department store. One little thing about the department store, it was called Kaufman's, and I went into the bookstore, and there, I was 15 years old, I found a copy of Leaves of Grass, written by Walt Whitman, of course, illustrated by Rockwell Kent. It cost $5, and that was the sum total of my paper route, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and also my working Byers Children's Shop, 2 floors of everything from tots to teens. But I read this poem. This is the poem that prompted me to buy the book and open my head. And it said something about let's see. I'm paraphrasing. When I heard that in the Capitol I had been mentioned by the president and that I was famous, I was not happy. And when I heard that I had received the prize, and when I heard that I had been awarded, but when I heard that my lover was coming and that night we would sleep together, then I was happy. Well, that just hit me. That just like, hello, Jack Donahue. And so growing up in McKeesport, this little steel town where we had no credentials of any sort at all. I should have married Loretta Petrick, but luckily I didn't. Never, wouldn't, no, not Loretta. But here's what it said. You know, you think a person as clever as I am would have thought to put little tabs in.
They're in your other book.
Yeah, I know, but this one, well, it said, as a child, I did not realize that my father was the prince and that I was the Dauphin. And though my father worked in the mill, it's really good too. That's what's that's so pissy about it. Well, maybe this is it right here. As a child, I found that, as a child, I did not understand that I was a prince and that my father was the king. And although we did not live in a castle and father worked in the mill, I began to realize that in the realm of my dreams, I was the Dauphin. And through my bedroom window, I could see a spectacle of towers and minarets float above the soiled city below. like a iridescent mist. My imagination would be both my wand and my scepter, and there would be no boundaries to my domain. I will pass this around, and there's one other thing I want to read out of here. It's so nice. It's really nice to write something true and real and, okay, here's another. My heart remains a recluse in this dead house, steeped in the reverie of what used to be. I keep my vigil for another day before I too fade away. This house is built of wood cut from my family tree. It was deprived of most amenities, and until I had grown beyond a boy, this poverty did not embarrass me. How strange that I should recall this faded stain after all these years. These rooms were our little theater's mise en scène, where we performed our daily dramas, sans proscenium. I have returned to fulfill my deal with Faust and the spirits of this dead house. I, who have been most blessed, with this incantation puts this place to rest. And I just want to read an early gay experience of mine. This is about my mother and father. I only write about what I know, for sure. I'll tell you what I know. Father lived incognito in his own house. He was a stranger to his spouse. Jack worked in the 3 shifts in Mr. Carnegie's mill for little pay and smoked 3 packs of Camels every day. Cigarettes were his best friends until they betrayed him in the end. Mother said he was a good man and a good provider. Between mother and me, he was always the outsider. When he was told that he had been cuckolded, father went from an amateur drinker to a professional. Mother took to her confessional. Once I saw him cry. I never thought to ask him why. He was already a ghost when he died. I hate to write this. The truth is he was not missed. And one last little trip down memory lane here. Talk amongst yourselves. When I was 15, I lied, it was probably 14. When I was 15, I discovered Desire in my favorite Sunday funnies. It was in a paper owned by Hearst. That's Prince Valiant freed Alida from a curse. But soon everything went wrong, and he was captured as she escaped, and his captors stripped him to a kind of thong. This nudity was new to me. Suddenly, a strange awareness, some buried yearning stirred. What was this curiosity that urged me to touch? I had not understood that this novelty was lust and desire for a man. I hid the comics in a drawer so I could peek at his physique encore. Desire had whispered in my mind thoughts I had never thought before. Now, as I decline in the ripening of time, I've forgotten just what those thoughts once were. Okay. I've done 45 books, and this 7 by 12 trees, as I said, books are my favorite thing. These are a few of my favorite things. Here's a picture. Never mind, it's not that good. Oh, this is wonderful. This is, if I say something, it's called To Some Other Father's Son. Okay. To some other father's son. I like to think that I had been your mother's lover and that we had slept with one another on some summer's night, so I might claim of you the natural father's right. And the blood that pulses through your veins, I wish were mine, the very same. And the strength that I can plainly see, I wish had also come from me. Would that you had issued from my fountain's joy, you sweet and sturdy smelling boy. But this is my harsh reality. Like a phantom limb, you cast no shadow from my tree. Still we had shared what you never had with him whom you had first called Dad. And as At this point of our brief now, it seems correct that I somehow be at your side so I might show and point and guide. What I need to give, you do need to take. We share this living gift for both our loving sake. And, I'm going to pass these around, and you could go through them. And this is called The Nature of Desire. And I like what I've written. And then I forgot what I had written. And I love these little things. Here's one called Playing with Matches. I lit his candle late last night. The wick was short, the flame was slight, and as the flame began to quiver, I heard him sigh and give a shiver. We seemed to share this growing glow, illuminating down below, and like a moth drawn to the light, my hand grew closer to the sight. The growing glow became a blaze, a bright and incandescent haze, and then the blaze grew even higher, a swollen, luminous lick of fire, and all at once, incineration, a white consuming conflagration. Now the flame begins to flicker, dark descending, quick, then quicker. At last, he rests his tired head and falls asleep, all tucked in bed. I write this now, sitting at home, playing with matches all alone. I did the most beautiful part of a man's body and the most beautiful part of a woman's body, which is one of my favorite pictures. I'm all about intimacy. I'm all about whispers. I'm all about saying, don't look now, but look. That sort of thing. And anything that pops into my head is a gift. And then I did a children's book, and it says, there's something I must tell you, but you don't have to listen, of shiny things and eyes that seem to glisten. Come close so I can whisper things I don't understand. And as I tell my tales for naughty boys and girls, please, may I hold your hand. Let's see. And, this is the children's book. It's called Inside Out, Upside Down, and Backwards. Most children's books are like one story. Well, this is, every other page is a different story. And let's see. Time is such a funny thing. It's like a hole inside a ring. It's always now and never then. But when I say it's now again, it's never now but always then. I'm always here and never there. But when I go from here to there, then there is here and here is there. And if you think you're very tall besides a tree, you're not at all. And if you think you're very small besides a bee, you're 10 feet tall. When we dream, we seem awake, but all along the dream was fake. You say you're I and also me. I know that's true. How can that be, since I'm not you and you're not me? Time is not what you might think it is and isn't in a wink. And then there's another one. It says, it was when, it's called I'm Much Nicer Than God. It said it was when Dennis died last week that I realized I was much nicer than God. I never would have invented, I never would have let Dennis suffer all those months. I would not have invented cancer in the first place. And I would never let children fall asleep hungry and old people fall asleep alone. But if it is true that I, with my vanity and petty greed, are much nicer than God, then I'm in despair because somewhere there must be more love. I don't have enough. Okay. Annie had magic hair. Oh no, I'm going to read it. I'll read it. I'm going to read another one. This is the end of the book. It says, "Oh dear, I fear I'm going to cry. It's time for us to say goodbye. My stories now have all been told, have all been read. They're hiding somewhere in your head. And one day when you are very grown and have children of your very own, you can tell them these tales too. They are my gift, the gift from me to you. These poems are flowers from my garden, and I give you this bouquet of foolish flings before dreams harden and fairy dust has blown away. Oh, Annie had, oh, that's not the one. Miss Kitty thought she was pretty. She preferred the looking glass to hiding in the grass. And once she saw a mouse in the house, but she didn't care. What could compare to her shiny coat, she'd gloat. And her tail, well, it was the best, not like the rest. What perfect paws, she purred. There was nothing dearer to her than her mirror. And all at once there was a crash, and her treasured mirror smashed. Kitty's reflection threw in 20 directions, and she became sad at the sight of her shattered self, and she became smaller and smaller, and soon she was the size of $1. We could all see that something was wrong, and when we turned around, she was all but gone. Without her reflection, she just wasn't there. Now Kitty's a fur ball under the chair. There's one about a Billy's Gronophone. Billy invented the Gronophone, and he practiced it all alone. But when he played it for a crowd, everyone would yell out loud, moan out loud, "You stink." "I think I will go away," Billy was heard to say, "to a land of birds and bugs where they'll give me lots of hugs and love to hear me play my Gronophone all day." But when his horn began to groan, all the birds ran away from home, and the bugs got in their cars, and off they drove all the way to Mars. And with each terrible toot, everyone began to scoot. None could stand to stay, so they all went to the middle of the Milky Way. And Billy kept tooting for all he was worth, and soon he was the last person all alone on Earth. That's why the stars that once were close all are moving far away. Billy's noise surprises understanding and that's the reason why the universe is expanding. I'm taking notes, so. Oh, this is a photograph of a little girl on stage, an empty stage, and there's snow. Her parents were inside throwing snow on her. It said, "Little Wilhelmina Peter pants while doing her Merry Christmas dance. It was when she twirled and as she bent that she had her accident. And poor Wilhelmina began to cry, and all could see the reason why. Santa, too, saw her embarrassment. And so he sent the north wind to blow through the window down below. And soon on the stage, snowflakes began to fall. 'Just look at that,' Wilhelmina said. 'I didn't wet myself at all. That snow that melted in my lap.' And now with great relief, Wilhelmina pirouetted, and in one grand leap, she dipped and tipped and something her hat, and everybody clapped and clapped. And that's the story of how little Wilhelmina became Santa's favorite ballerina. So, should you have an accident, please don't fret and please don't cry, for all things that start out wet usually end up being dry." I'm going to go to something. Say, "Excuse me." You want to pass that around? I'm going to read one more, but there are plenty more where these came from. This is it. I don't know which one to read. There's This is called The Photograph. The boy cut the photograph from the magazine and put it in his bottom drawer. beneath his sweaters where no one would ever look. At school, he feels a shock of excitement remembering it there, waiting for him. At night, he takes the picture from his hiding place, and as he holds it, his hand enters the frame, touching skin. He kisses the photograph and kisses lips, nipples, hair. Now, for the first time, he feels a panic of pleasure deep inside, rushing slowly upwards and out through his bedding, through the ceiling of his room and roof, higher still beyond the clouds, past the moon, scattering stars. You had to be there. Oh, this is one, let me know when you want me to, just pull my plug. I was photographing somebody, and this is the picture. When you get, this is the picture. And when I took the picture, I began to realize that I was taking the photograph over and over, long after I knew I had had the picture. And then I realized that the reason I kept taking the picture over and over, because that moment existed as long as I took the picture. And once I put the camera down, the moment had passed, and I couldn't bear to let go of that moment. It was such a stunning, sweet moment. There's a lot of good stuff here. Oh, one last one. Ready? It says, inappropriate desire. What is this want that makes me turn to look at you? I do not know. It is of me as is my breath. Do you tell yourself to breathe? It is my nature, and being nature, it is not right or wrong, nor good nor bad, but innocent of purpose. It is my body's music, and if it's truth, and I become queer and peculiar things out of harmony when I silence my song, because that's not working, is it? Can I rip this out of the book?
Only if you autograph it and give it to me.
Okay. All things mellow in the hand. All things mellow in the mind. A sleight of hand, a trick of time, and even our great love will fade. Soon we'll be strangers in the grave. That's why this moment is so dear. I kiss your lips, and we are here. So let's hold tight and touch and feel. For this quick instant, we are real. Let's see. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's one other thing, if I can find it. It's about, oh no, Mr. Bill. This is called An Imaginary Letter Written by Konstantin Kafafi to a Young Friend. Alexandria, February 18, 1932. My dear Nazreli, here is a photograph of someone I once dreamt about. Have you ever seen this face before? Does it look familiar? What do you think of these eyes? I find them tender, certainly beautiful. I wonder if they have cried very often. I hope not. And these lips, do you think they could lie? I hope not, no. What questions might they ask? Are the sounds that leap from these lips the voice of a boy or of a man's voice? Surely they must kiss such lovely kisses. The hair seems almost Roman, the kind I once saw in a statue of a young athlete in the Glyptothek in Munich. If you ever go to Munich, go to the Glyptothek. Augustus loves such a youth with hair like this. The skin seems ruddy and healthy, luminous, still perfect, not punished by time. His face is not yet worthy of wrinkles. I wonder what he thinks about as I dream of him. And when he sleeps, eyes closed, hand awkward on his chest, rising and falling like a leaf, as he breathes, the sheets pressed hard against his belly and cock. I wonder, does he dream of me at all? Well, there's one last thing I want to read to you. quick before you want to pass that around. Damn. See, that's what happens when you have a sieve for a brain. You know what? I know which book it's in. It's in that one. The guy that. What are you doing with my book?
You want it back.
I saw what he was doing with my. You're disgusting. Can we talk later? Yeah. Okay, this is. I'll turn around in a minute. Well, this is about, Fred and I were big gardeners, and our garden, I did the fourth season, was in House and Gardens, and the Times did a feature on it once. It said, this is called The Empty Garden. The petals have fallen from the peonies, and the hollyhocks have gone to seed. The weeds have grown, the garden paths to green. The yellow roses are flowering as if you were still here. Dandelions are everywhere, and I haven't seen a single cyclamen this year. Last May, a wild vine crawled through a crack and up the spine of our maple. Now bitter grapes are falling to the ground. I must remember to pull it down one day. Our clematis is turning brown, you know, the purple one we bought in town. The garden has grown wild like some untamed, willful child that we once planted with our seeds. I seldom go there now, except at night, when darkness is the only light, for then I am content because I cannot see that you have gone away from me. I put Fred's ashes in the garden in the country, and my ashes are going to go across from our house, which we don't own anymore, was a field, and every year I'd plant more daffodils, and no animals do not eat daffodils. So after 10 years, there are like 2,000 daffodils. So half my ashes are going to go in the field, in the daffodils, and the other half will be in the old garden back in McKeesport. And that's very nice. Thank you.
This is called Pool Honolulu, and it's 2 pieces of paper this big. Are we good? Okay. We were mesmerized by neon as we walked down Kahio toward our favorite Vietnamese restaurant, the candy-colored hues shimmering on wet streets a day of rain had left behind. We were spending summer reading the great books, Main Street, Treasure Island, Dennis the Menace Goes to Hawaii, and today's find at arguably the last used bookstore in all of Honolulu on the second floor of a beat-up strip mall over by the university, the Grapes of Wrath. That neighborhood is full of low-rent projects and potholes, the latter of which are not easy to navigate on a bicycle when they're full of today's rain, downpours right out of the last chapter of Steinbeck. But today had cleared biblically. The clouds simply parted, and as I pedaled across a foot-high pool spanning one street, curb to curb, a cop came in a cruiser, leaned out her window, looked down and asked, "Where did all this water come from?" And I looked up smiling and answered, "The sky." And 25. Oh, no, two more. I brought way too many paintings. Another one. This one. This is a nice size canvas. Would look good over a sofa, maybe. You know, it's about 5 feet across. It's called Kissing the Moon for Winslow Homer. Kissing the moon is not something I ever tried hanging out at the Art Institute growing up in Chicago. Homer's painting never hung there, with its 3 men in an unseen boat, sliding down an ocean trough with a wave tip intersecting the orb of a rising full moon. I could have tried kissing a pumpkin, though, the ones in Winslow's box of watercolors I would ask to see in the print and drawing study room, where I'd sit at a big table and they'd set it down in front of me, open the lid, and then walk away. And there they'd be, this stack of Adirondacks and Bahamas, balanced design and controlled technique shot through with orgasms of puddled color. For to be a farmer's boy was my favorite. It's boy carrying the hard, waxy pumpkin through a field, another at his feet. Did I want to be him? Thinking of my aunt's tomato patch in our backyard. I went in recently, and to my delight, the drill had not changed. They brought out the box, opened it, and walked away, only now I was asked to wear white gloves. When I see a pumpkin these days, I think of how that painting tapped some reservoir deep down, waiting to gush to the surface. And when I see a moon rising, its glowing orb full and orange in a dusk sky, I feel my lips begin to pucker, ready, no gloves.
Whoa.
And the next one. This is an oil on paper, it's about this big, called Moby Dick. Short. Marlene calls to tell me I should only be doing paintings about Moby Dick. I keep thinking, that's what I've been doing. And a oil on a little, it's about this big, about as big as a piece of paper. Today I drove along the Rio Grande. Growing up in Chicago, I spent rainy Saturdays at the Art Institute looking at paintings. Today I drove along the Rio Grande. And the next one. So I do love to reference some of my heroes in the work. This is called Carl Bodmer, Crossing the Missouri. Crossing the Missouri, date unknown, circa 1830s, Carl Bodmer, 1809, 1893, watercolor and maybe wolf urine on paper. It sparkles under some light. Found last year in a closet not far off the main lobby of the Joslin in Omaha, down one of the black marble halls where the Bodmers usually hang. The subject, Josh, noted on the back, is reportedly of Korean descent, though he easily passes as Native American. However, the hills depicted are said to have been inspired by those in Black Cross, New Mexico, in O'Keeffe canvas in the collection of the Art Institute in Chicago, and which can be seen faintly on the upper right horizon. Use your imagination. We are not sure who said that, though, but we don't care. And anyway, that's not why you're here. We like it an awful lot. I was just smitten by Carl Bodmer's work the very first time I saw him. Okay. Next one. Okay, really sexy orgasm, gay image. It's like, I know that I'm in Friends territory here. It's called "'Tis of Thee." And this painting, by the way, is upstairs in the flat file. So if you want to see it, Brian can show it to you. "'Tis of thee, as philosophical thoughts attend. Have we really crossed the line? We have looked at this painting for weeks now, asking ourselves, have we really crossed the line, as some say, with this image? And if so, can it take to diffuse or neutralize something many say is provocative or explicit or outright pornographic? Does the ink-drawn brick wall around this fellow do the job? Or the rendition of foliage and dappled sunlight? A reference to plein air painting? What about the fact that this is a painting executed with skill and not some cheap, quick photograph? Sorry. When you consider the image involved, is this act not a common occurrence among many, albeit one that is little discussed, let alone shown and or depicted out of embarrassment, and which is only induced by prudery, religious or otherwise. Furthermore, when you consider that not only does the young man give the artist permission to look, and then the artist gives you permission to look, and in fact, by painting the image, asks you to look, do you not, in fact, keep looking to the point that you can't take your eyes off it? How then do you begin? How do you read the title? Can this, in fact, be a manifesto? You may begin your answer here. So. I do have to say, when we all laughed at not being a cheap photograph, I love what Duane said about taking the same photo over and over again, because while you're taking the photo, that's how long it lasts. And I really love that idea. I think that's what I love about painting, is that I get to have this image with me for, a few hours or days or however long it takes. So. And I'll read you two more. These are truck driving. Oh, near the end. Okay, just keep going. Oh yeah, this is it. These are photographs, and they're written with spot tone. This back when I had a black and white darkroom. These are 4 8x10s that I taped together. I processed each of the 4 pieces of paper in my 8x10 trays, and then after they were dried and fixed, after they were fixed and dried, I taped them together and then wrote on the actual photos with spot tone. This is called I Used to Write on Envelopes. And I did this piece while I was driving the truck one day crossing New Mexico. And I used to drive a bobtail. It's about 30 feet long, 10 feet high. I could usually take the Lincoln Tunnel, but not the Holland Tunnel. I was too tall for that. And one time, I love this story, I tried taking the Queens Midtown Tunnel, and I set off all the alarms, and they came out and they stopped 8 lanes of traffic so that I could turn my truck around and go take the Williamsburg, take whatever bridge, the whatever bridge that goes to Queens, anyway. I used to write on envelopes. 30 miles west of Santa Rosa, and 30 minutes after night has settled onto the black plains of New Mexico, the voice of KGBI Omaha, Council Bluffs, comes sailing across the black sky and stars. 30 miles west of Santa Rosa, the Big Dipper is rising above mesas that cannot be seen, while the headlights and taillights of cars and trucks twitch and roll in the dips and curves of Interstate 40. Billboards for the good food, home-style Mexican USA Club Cafe cannot be seen, nor signs for 2,000-room Tucumcari tonight. Omaha cannot be seen, nor Council Bluffs, nor I. But our voices keep telling us, reassuring us that we are there. And then, next one. This is the last piece I will read to you. And again, it's 4 8x10 black and white photos. And I actually jammed it through my printer. I sanded the paper first so that the ink would catch, and then I jammed it through my printer to print out this text. If he had asked me, I could have told him that Cicely C. had spray painted her name in black on the back of the old train station, that old white building with the columns and the second-story veranda, probably the biggest building between Barstow and here in Flagstaff. I could have told him it was the old Harvey House, home to many a train crew in its day, and now most of it dark, and the back lawn strewn with broken palms, and if he wanted to, he could walk around it like I did and imagine he was in Havana or Caracas or further. But he didn't want to know that. And if he had asked me, I could have told him that there along Front Street, between that old building and me on the corner of D, he could find Foxy Coiffures and Gift World, Irene Furniture and Desert Hair Design, half of them dark and empty, and a half block up, 4 trucks parked at the back of the cold storage dock, but he didn't want to know about all of that either. As it was, all he wanted to know was what town it was. And all I said was, Needles. And he said, California. And I said, yeah. And then the train lurched and he ran for it, back to his spot on one of the flat cars behind the tires of a truck. I stayed in the disk of orange thrown by a street lamp and watched with eucalyptus and Mopac, as Mopac and Preferred Pool and Boston, Maine rolled by, and as the moan of engines picked up speed and drew further and further away, I knew I heard him ask me, and I pointed up to the expanse of stars and the glow of a waxing moon. Thank you very much. One more. I really, this is so nice. You know, this is one of the first times I've ever done a presentation that wasn't like in an auditorium and I'm just reading. And the title of this piece is Heed. So just to notice what's in the word. So anyway, thank you so much. Oh.
Hi, what's the significance of the numbers? I see numbers in almost every...
It's an inventory system. I started 20 years ago with number 2, and I decided to just number things as I went along. So I'm up to 2533 as of this morning, because I was doing some drawings last night and this morning based on a Paul Cadmus drawing I saw yesterday at the Whitney, and one of Henry Taylor's paintings, and then this morning a photo of people talking, and it's called At the Opening, We Crackle with Authenticity. And anyway, some of the paintings have more than one number because I'll work on it and assign a number, and then it was 276, but then 1,400 pieces later, I decide to go back in and work on it again, and so I'll add another number to it. And I think I'm up, one painting, not here, has 6 or 7 numbers, and I like the graphic look. Like you know, the censor marks on Japanese prints, they're just so beautiful, and I don't know what they mean, and you know, and so anyway. And there's holes in the, but I keep track, and there's holes in the system, and I've always wanted to give art historians something to talk about in the future. So, Conrad.
This question can apply to you or Duane. Does the writing inspire the painting or photograph, or does the photograph or painting?
Yes. It works both ways. You know, sometimes I'm writing something in my head, and other times I just look at an image, and it's like I have to paint the image, and I'll worry about the words later. And sometimes I have an experience that it's like I know I can get a story out of this, like flying here the other day from Denver. I live near Denver. This woman, Hispanic woman, on her way to Connecticut, didn't speak like more than 3 words of English. We both had masks on and ski caps, and I'm looking at this blanket of clouds that covered the whole country from Omaha to New York. And it's like, I know there's a story in here somewhere, but I don't know what it's going to be yet. But it's like, so I'm on the lookout for some kind of connection, visual or not. So sometimes it can be a noise or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Apologies for the radiator. Yeah.
Oh, that's your radiator?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
I think it's getting cold outside, so the heat is turning on. Yeah. Great. if nobody has anything else, then yeah, feel free to have some refreshments, take another look at the show, and
Thank you so
thank
much.
you again for coming.
And thank you, Duane.